Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. All right, we're jumping right in today with the beautiful Shaunda Head. She is an Atlanta-based brand strategist and digital marketer of SHH, not shh, SHH Creative. Beautiful Taurus sun, Aries moon, and Scorpio rising. Oh my gosh, hello, Shaunda.
Hey, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Pumped to be here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a few months that we've been, looking to get you on to talk all things branding, because I just love everything that you do in your brand and how you help others brand their differences. Can you share with us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes. So I'm a brand strategist and digital marketer. Operating out of Atlanta, Georgia. And what I do is I help women-owned small businesses to brand themselves and market themselves. And what I really do is lean into, there's this concept in marketing of the USP, which is like our unique selling perspective. And so, but for me, that really aligns with you and who you are, so all this deep digging that we do to trying to figure out what that is, it really is more so an internal thing for me. And it's something that I always kind of lean into with my clients. So on that end, I build brand and marketing strategies. And then I also am a funnel builder. So I take that strategy and I build out the marketing funnels that we need for your offer based on the strategy that we built in your strategy session.
Oh my gosh. I think that's why we've always had these like business crushes on each other, because we
yes.
So when I look at your chart, Shaunda, with all of your Taurus energy, right? You have your Taurus sun and you have your Taurus Mercury and Chiron in Taurus. You're one of the Chiron and Taurus generation. Yep. There's quite a few of us. But your Taurus, you have just this intercepted sixth house. So meaning you have Taurus both on the sixth house cusp and the seventh house cusp. So you're bringing in so much Taurus, so much value, so much beauty, so much stability, and in that place of sixth house of like routines and like getting like effective systems. So loving that you bring this beautiful design, but you're creating these funnels that just create this not necessarily automatic, but it's almost on the verge of automatic, just like consistent lead generation.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Oh, beautiful. And then I just love how when we talk about that USP, that unique selling point, and those differentiators that you dive deep into with your customers, that, I do too, but I approach it a different way. So let's talk some branding. Let's like go like nerdy on branding things.
Yes, let's nerd out. I'm here for it.
So earlier, before we hit record, right, we were talking about like branding and all like those misperceptions and like miseducation that a lot of business owners think about branding. I know, at least from my perspective, as also you design, I design, we both love design and beautiful things. And we get these clients are like, I need a new website or I need a new brand. And oftentimes we're like, well, hold on, that's not exactly what you need.
Right.
What do you think are some like what do you wish people knew about branding?
I really wish that people knew that it starts, with you and yourself and building out what your brand platform is. A lot of times it's funny when clients come in, to work with you, they have their ideas like, okay, this is what I need. I want boom, 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 boom. But strategy wise, it's like, no, actually, that's not what you should do if these are the goals that you're trying to hit. So let's really talk about that. And people think that branding and everything that's involved with it is really something that just has a lot of like physical, like tangible sense to it. Like, oh, it's my logo. Oh, it's my website. You know what I'm saying? No, ma'am. Well, actually, maybe. Yes, ma'am. But there's so much more to it. There's your social media, there's your content, right? There's your offer. Like every little to me, your brand is a brand system. So that means there are a lot of components. They all need to align and work well with each other. And kind of like you just mentioned, to me, it's about the consistency. So when we build out your funnel, when we build your brand, essentially, what I'm specifically trying to do is make sure that that message, that is your clear, direct message, your value, is inherent in every piece of your brand system. So that kind of opens the floodgates. It's way more than what color am I going to use in my logo. And it's
Yes.
also way more than, okay, I want it to be purple because I just love purple. I've loved purple since I was a little child. You know, like that has nothing to do with what is going to be the best for your brand and how you're really, really going to call in your true dream clients. So that's just what I want people to know. Branding is not just going to be just your logo on your website. And it's also a lot of thought that's put into, from the moment that you brand yourself and you put yourself out there, you are doing the work of trying to attract your true dream client. That's it, right? But you really want them to resonate with who you are. And so that means there's a lot of work that happens in the beginning that's really very you centered, that people just kind of skip over. And maybe they get there like a few years down the line when you're like burnt out, exhausted, and you feel like, you know, nothing, it doesn't look like me, it doesn't sound like me. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
because there was some work that we were supposed to do. And it's helpful if you do that up front because you really want your people to resonate with you, you know, as you're putting content out and as you're speaking to them.
Yes. So before we go, I want to talk deeper with you about that values portion, especially with all of your
Yeah.
Taurus energy and like how you're saying to get aligned with yourself. The episode that just dropped a week before, and we scheduled you for Taurus season because Taurus is all about aesthetics and beauty, but it's also values and money and
Yes.
profit. And so the episode
Yeah.
that drops right before you is all about your visual brand and how to create an aligned visual brand and the mistakes that you will make when making a visual brand. Because oftentimes when people think about branding, they go straight to logo. They go, yeah,
Yep.
straight to website, like you said. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what your unique selling point that you call it, and I call it like your expertise based on your
Yep.
astro brand. We have different ways of looking at it, but it's exactly the same thing. Like what makes you so unique and different? Like why would your soul customers really want to work with you? And then there are some people like Shaunda who has a lot of Taurus or people with like lots of Libra who actually need a beautiful website to get started. But those are
Mm.
just such a small percentage of the population. And so I think what both Shaunda and I are saying here is like, remember, you really need to know who you are, who your ideal customers are, get your position in right, like what differentiates you in the marketplace. Because like Shaunda and I both do design, both do branding, but we know who our ideal customers are because we have just you like sometimes they intersect. But if somebody needs a funnel, I'm going to be like, go see Shaunda. If you need a system, go see Shaunda. Like I'm like big idea person. I cannot execute.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't believe that, Leslie. Okay.
Systems execution and strategy is a little bit harder for me.
But you know what? That's so funny. I think we're very complimentary because I have like my whole entire background is design. Like I went to school for design, like undergraduate and graduate school and all that jazz. But when I did start working in the corporate space, I was always in marketing departments. I was like the one lone graphic designer in the marketing department. So they're like, you know what you're going to do? You're going to learn how to do this too, you know? And so, you know how that goes, like in corporate, they have you doing all these other things. And so what I learned was I love the strategy of it so much. I don't like the one-off, you know, things like
Mm-hmm.
only because when clients come in the door, a lot of times there's some educating that you have to do, or like in your content that pre-frames everything beforehand, but there's some educating you have to do again, like, okay, there are reasons why we're doing certain things. Why are we doing these things? Maybe you don't have this in place yet, and that needs to happen first. So a lot of like my design work happens after the fact, like as a part of like my full package, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to someone walking in the door and we're doing design off the bat. And so I kind of love that you said that just about the marketing funnel piece, like, because that's actually, that's my, like, I can sit and talk all day. Like, let's talk strategy. We're talking
Yes.
all the systems and the automations that you can have, because most people are really at that point where, or at least when I see people come in the door, they're at the point where they don't have their team yet, or they don't have their full team. And they're like, I don't have the capacity, or this is not my ministry. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we simplify things? But also in the simplifying of it, you'll find that it'll be even easier for you to get to the people you're trying to get to, if we do some of this other work in tandem with that. So, you know what I'm saying? So to me, I just love that piece of it so much. For me, I think that a lot of times we're taught, when we go into business for ourselves, we're taught, pay attention to your ideal client. You know, you need to know what their avatar is. You need to know what they drink and what they eat, and what they drive, and how many kids they have, and how much money they make. But it's like drilled into us so much that we take ourselves out of it. And so to me, it's at least 50% us and 50% our dream client. I think
Yeah.
of it like a Venn diagram. So there's you, there's your customer, and you know that little piece in the middle where
Hmm.
they
They
intersect
meet.
and it's like grayed out. Yeah. That's going to be what I call your impact area. So what you want to do is sit squarely in that place that intersects you and your client. That means, there's some work to be done outside of just your ideal client avatar.
Yeah, I love that visual of the intersection. And even just like when I'm looking at a natal chart and thinking about our rising sign as being the leader that we're meant to be, knowing ourselves so well, how we're supposed to be contributing, how people see us. And then at the other end, our ideal customers. And one of the mistakes I see clients making is that they try to be their ideal customer. But in reality, we have to just be ourselves, and the
Yes.
ideal customer is magnetized to us and meets us in that middle, in that
Yes.
beautiful space that you're saying.
Yeah.
And if we can go back to kind of the systems and the automations and the funnels that you build, to me, I see this again, part of the brand. Like, not only do we need to know our position, where we are in the marketplace, not only do we need to know our vision, where we want to go, who we want to serve, but then the visuals is, and the funnels and all of the systems that are in our business, like how we communicate to our clients, like what platforms are we on, like what kind of emails do we send, what kind of opt-ins that you work on for those funnels, like to
Yep.
grow your audience. Those are all part of your unique signature style that your visuals then come out of. And so I would love to see, I would love to know, how do you determine what kind of automations and systems that you pick for clients based on what they need and their style of how they want to run their businesses?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we kind of always dig into is just the knowledge that your message is your funnel. Like, it's your first funnel. The word funnel scares people, you know,
Scares me.
because, yeah, I mean, because and it can be super detailed and super complicated, but it also doesn't have to be. And even if you don't have anything set up in your business, just know that your message is what's calling the people in, what's calling the traffic in. So that means that whatever your consistent message is, it needs to, I use the word polarizing, but that makes it sound like, oh, you need to be saying something that's like negative or against someone else. And that's not it. It's just that you need to be speaking to your exact like person, or to your exact audience.
Mhm.
So people should easily be able to hear your message, see your message, take it in and say, oh, she's not for me, or she is for me. And that's just it. If you don't have the capacity or time to do anything else, the message needs to be super clear and super direct. And also, honestly, repetitive because people aren't taking in what we think they're taking in. They need to see it and hear it a billion different times. Like we've all heard this kind of stats on that.
Mm-hmm.
And also in this world now, especially like moving through this pandemic, like we have been, the internet traffic has been way, way up. So we're having to quote unquote compete even more than before on the internet. So
Yes.
anything that comes out of your mouth needs to be aligned to whatever your message is. That's number one. And number two, the thing is that people don't understand whatever funnels that you build in your business. Well, actually, most people probably already have a funnel. They just don't realize that, and they don't understand that because it's just not working the way you would want it to be. Because the funnel is literally just the path to you, right? To your services, to your offers from the customer. It's a line that we draw out for them.
Yeah.
So, really, what we're doing is we're not creating funnels like from scratch. We are taking what you have in your brand system and we're optimizing it to work for you, like no matter where they find you or however they enter, your quote unquote funnel. So, the thing that people need to realize is every offer like isn't meant for you. And that's what a
Yeah.
lot of my work is too. Like Tom was trying to convince people, we're not here to do cookie cutter. We're not here to do something because you saw someone else do it and they had a 6-figure launch or $1 million launch and you're like, oh, let me try that because so and so did that. That really just has nothing to do with you. What so and so did, probably that really worked for them, was lean way into themselves and their
Yes.
message and their platform. Just like a politician has a platform, I feel like business owners should have a platform, a brand platform, because people can't see you, right? In this day and age. So you need a platform that you can stand on, basically.
So, with your platform and that kind of polarizing, that kind of message about like, hey, you're for me, but you're not for me, does that come back then down to somebody's values?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It comes down to your message. It comes down to your values, right? It comes down to the exact kind of experience. Like all of these things go into your platform and what you're building for them. And I say you're building it for them, but you're building it literally based on yourself. And I think that is so scary for people because it's like, what if this doesn't work? What if people talk about me? You know what I'm saying? Like if
Mhm.
I say I'm into this, this, and this, what if people have something to say? But the truth of the matter is, the more that we are confident and leaning onto ourselves and our values, like you brought up,
Mhm.
the more that we call in people who are either similar and like that, or they resonate with that because that's what they want to see in someone who can support them like in their business. Or you may not even work B2B. You may help people with health and wellness, or you may be a hairstylist or whatever it may be. But people need to see something that they can connect to and latch on to. And even like your stories are important here as
Mhm.
well. And these are all things that I work with people to put onto their brand platform. And then what we do, that's your voice part, right? That's really
Yeah.
what we call branding your voice. And I find that a lot of people even are like, well, I don't know what my voice is. So you either don't know what your voice is, or you feel like what you have right now is just not representative of what your voice is. So when we
Yeah.
build your brand platform, we build your voice. We make sure your voice is clear and direct. Then we move into how to bridge that gap. We take your voice and we figure out what's the marketing, what are the funnels, what is everything that we need to put in the message that you're putting out there, in order to bridge the gap between you and your dream client. And then lastly, we go into how to build your lane, how to use that in all your marketing, in all your systems, in everything, in order for people to see that you have your own lane. Because you may not be the absolute best at what you're doing, right? But what you are is you are the one for somebody out there, for a multitude of people out there, but they can't see you yet. They have no idea yet, right? And that's what
Yes.
that is.
I love that process of because again, very similar process to me.
Yep.
For me, I feel like in my work that I offer people, I'm able to kind of pinpoint the energies when they're like, I don't know what my voice is, I don't know what this is, I don't know and I'm giving them that kind of big energetic map of where to hone in, and then
Yes.
you fill in the gaps by like bridging. Okay, now I have my energy. Now, how do we execute on that in your brand? Um,
Yes.
would you give us an example of, and the reason why I'm asking for the example, I know personally for me, sharing my stories and sharing my values, I've only recently started kind of coming out of the closet because it's
Yeah.
scary, especially like
Yes,
as a
it is.
woman of color. I only recently started telling people that I was Jewish, that I was Filipino, because I feel
Mhm.
persecuted sometimes for being those things. But I realize the more that I share those, like the more people start coming out and say, oh my gosh, I want to work with you. I had no idea you were
Yep.
Filipino or something like that. But it's really terrifying. Would you share some of how you crossed that gap from your values and created your funnel?
Yeah, no, it is terrifying.
Okay, let's just acknowledge that. It
Let's
is
just say that
terrifying.
it is terrifying. Um, but it's terrifying as you're getting started or as you're think it's really the anticipation of the thing
Mhm,
that is the scariest. When you start doing it, it totally becomes it's freeing, but it's validating because you can literally see people's responses to what you are saying and doing, whether it be for your business or whether it's just like, how you're living life as you're moving through. You can it's like it's an immediate thing that happens. So what happens when we use our stories is people really build a relationship with you if they're going to do business with you. It's a
mhm.
relationship.
Yeah.
So there people latch on to different people for different reasons, but a lot of times like when we use our stories, um people really will resonate with something that we said because they may feel like they have the same story as you or a family member. They know it's something that they can immediately understand. We talk a lot and we train a lot really on psychology when we're doing things like branding and marketing because the mind goes through different things. And what we know is that when something is more similar, than when someone can understand it immediately, well, they can understand, but let me just say they can understand it immediately because it's similar to them. Their mind understands it. And so
Mhm.
that switch happens a lot faster. So if you're creating for people, you need to know that what you're creating is something that people can understand and resonate with. So that's why we train in those things when we're doing this work. So like for me, I went through a major pivot in 2019 to literally I didn't work for like a couple months, meaning I stopped sending emails, I stopped taking calls. I was like, I'm gonna just sit down because nothing was working. But when I say working, I mean nothing felt like I was pulling in the right people. It didn't
Mhm.
feel like I was being heard or seen,
Yeah.
um, and it just felt like something's not aligned. I don't know what it is. Let me just sit down and let me take a break. And
Yeah.
what happened was when I came back from like my self-imposed sabbatical, what
Yeah.
happened was I started putting material and content out that I had been done like 2 years prior. I had and my business blew up off of stuff that I had created over the previous year and 2 years that I was either too afraid to put out or I thought people wouldn't take me seriously
Mm.
because they didn't know me yet or anything like that. And what I learned was, like I mentioned earlier, every offer isn't for you. If you have certain goals that you're trying to hit, there are certain offers that'll be better for that, right? So what I did was in the funnel for my business, I shut everything else down and I just built what we call an SLO funnel, which is a self liquidating offer. An easier way to think of that is a low ticket offer. You see these $27, $37 ads out there. I built one for myself because what those do for you is they increase brand visibility and brand awareness. So they're really good if you're pivoting, if you're just starting out, if you're trying to build an audience that is maybe not the audience that you already have. Those
Mm-hmm.
low ticket offers can be really great. A lot of times people say, why are you jipping yourself? It's so cheap. It's not even about the money. It's about building the audience, getting that brand awareness. And then if you want to build a full funnel, you will add other offers to that. That's probably another talk for a different day. But the money comes on the back end and not on that front end, like $27 product. So I built one of those for myself. I built also a quiz for my lead generation,
Yeah, it's a
and
beautiful
which is
quiz.
it. Thank you so much. I do love it. It's still running to this day. I get messages probably every other day from people who take it because they're like, somebody emailed me say, is this voodoo? Because how do you know this much about me? You know what I mean? So it works really well. And now it's something that I teach people how to create for themselves. And that in combination with my low ticket offer funnel, and I use that to literally rebuild my business.
Oh my gosh. So this is like just so many golden nuggets about how to really create that pathway.
Yep.
If you know funnel doesn't work, how to really look at your unique differences and your polarizing values to really call
Yes.
in the people that you want to work with to create this whole style of your business that isn't just based on your visuals, but it's how your business works for you. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Shaunda, you know, we met a few years ago in a
Mhm.
mastermind, and
Yeah.
then but for some reason you really loved my work and ended up
I
working
did.
with me. And
Yeah.
when I was doing that Luminary on call, would you mind talking a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah. Your work. I did Luminary on call, so I don't know. Was it like 3 calls I had or something
Yeah,
with you
for
over the whole program? Okay,
uh-huh.
but it was so validating to me. And because the work that you do is so, it's really needed, because when we talk about what are your differences, how can you brand those to like stand out in these industries, you're talking about someone's natal chart. Like there's literally nothing. I don't know. I think I read one day like what the stat is for how many other people would have your natal chart is basically like no one else.
Zero.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
the
Okay.
pattern repeats in like 24,000 years.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So it's you can't even wrap your brain around that, right? At least I can't. So what is more differentiating than that? Nothing, first of all. So to me, your work is needed for this work that we do, because how can we talk about our unique values? How can we talk about our differentiating factors? You literally have something that is the most different thing. You know what I'm saying? And then you know how to read it. And you know what I'm saying? It's so cool to me. And I've always had a love for astrology, like hobby wise.
Mhm.
Um, but you're able to just break it down so simply. And as a business owner, even if for some reason you're not interested in, okay, what are my differences or whatever, right? But the way that it's so validating, because the things that I've always been doing, you're like, yeah, it's right here in your chart, you know? So you were able to show me, okay, your messaging, should have like this kind of flair for this type of archetype. And then something that really blew my mind, two things. In our first conversation, you were speaking about where my sun is versus like Pluto and something else. And
Mhm.
you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, your creativity is it's spiritual to you, basically. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, because literally there are times, and it happens a lot frequently, when I'm creating, whether I'm doing copy for a client, or I'm designing something, and I then time fast forwards
Yeah, the
and it's
flow.
done, and I read back on it, and I'm like, I wrote that? Like, damn girl, like, or even, and it used to happen to me in high school, where I was in like all the art classes,
Yeah.
I was very much an artist and a painter, and I used charcoal and all those things. And I will remember looking back on my artwork like, I don't remember creating this. And so when you said that to me, you were like, it's almost like you channel. And I was like, oh my God, Leslie. Like, I literally have been trying to figure out all these years, what is going on with me? Because I can't remember creating these things as I remember sitting down and starting. And then literally, like, time will fast forward. And that's when you explained to me, no, it's right here. It's your connection to spirituality is very much connected to your creativity. And
Yeah.
that was like, well, damn, like that's it was just mind blowing to me. And I think I also spoke to you, you know, we've had a session this year as well, and I was speaking to you just about my whole brand system, you know, idea that I have going on. And, you know, how in our business, it's always niche down, niche down, niche down, specialize. And I
Yeah.
feel like I specialize in this area. But you know, I can very easily see where people are like, well, you do this, this, and this. Like, my brain works like this is her message. So these are all the places it needs to exist,
Yeah.
right? Creatively, it needs to align and connect this way. And you said to me, you're like, no, it's right here. This basically what you're doing, you know, this is what you're doing is exactly what you basically were created to do. And I'm
Yeah.
so much about like creative expression. I'm just about expression in general. I want people to express themselves as they are, right? And so there was that you brought up for me. And then the last thing I want to say, you were speaking to me about just trauma and how that shows up, how I can work through it, and how it shows up in my chart and where it exists. And you hit the nail on the head. And I was like, but Leslie, how do I, you said it needs to be acknowledged and you need to work with it. That Chiron in Taurus, right? You said you
Mm-hmm.
need to work with it. I was like, how do I work with it, Leslie? I don't know. You got to tell me. And you just have all the answers. And so it's just so validating. Working with you is really helpful for people because we can validate what we've always been doing, or
Yeah.
what we think we're supposed to lean into. You can say, yeah, your chart clearly shows that direction. You can also show us who we're supposed to be working with, or who will naturally kind of resonate to us, which is it's so helpful in my work. And then I just know specifically for me, that was also a light bulb moment about how I can work with like the trauma that has shown up in my chart, and how my business can actually help heal that.
Yeah, and how that's like almost it's not almost, it is a value. It is a why that drives your business.
Yes.
That story needs to be told for your Taurus archetype clients who are, they're wanting
Yeah.
to build stability and wealth in their businesses, and that's what you're doing for them through like effective like automated systems in their business. It's so beautiful
Yeah.
how that works. So
It just blew my mind. It did.
well, I mean, oh my gosh, Shauna, I feel like, wow, so seen too. So, my goodness. But so I'm curious to know, like, you took a chance, right? You had no idea what to expect when you decided to work with me. But what
Yeah.
was that thing that you were like, oh, I need to work with Leslie? Like, what were you hoping to achieve?
Well, I'll be honest, and I don't know if this is going to be the best
Yeah.
answer, but I'm an empath and HSP, so like a highly sensitive person, and
Yes.
I can usually always tell when I just would see your work and you talking about, you know, your work. I knew that I wanted to work with you years ago actually. I just didn't know what I wanted to know. And not that you have to step in knowing that.
Yeah.
But for me, I have a lot going on
Oh,
personally, you
yes.
know what I'm saying? So sometimes the brain fog comes in and then you pop back up and I'm like, oh, this is the perfect time. I need to, you know what and this maybe not even be a good thing either, but just as a sorry, but
It's
as a
awesome.
human, right, I'm always like looking for validation, probably, even though we
Yeah.
shouldn't be. And so in things like getting readings or astrology sessions or anything like that, um I know that that's a part of I walk into it, just
Mhm.
seeing. And sometimes you just want somebody, just tell me something. Tell me to do something. I follow instructions very well. Just tell me what I need to do. But I also could always tell your energy is just so like just pure and sweet, and you literally are the person that you hear, you right, or
Mhm.
that you see. You're literally that person. And so there are certain people that I am naturally drawn to just because I have like really heightened sensitivities.
Yeah.
So I knew that you were like somebody that I was going to easily be able, our paths crossed years ago, but we weren't like friends or anything. Like we didn't know each other well.
Mm-mm.
But I knew your work. I started following you on social and everything like that. But I was so pleased to when I started to interact with you one on one. It was just so pleasing to me, just outside of the work that you're doing, just because you're so knowledgeable, but the way you come at it is very, just helpful and supportive. And as a business, like we all need support. We all
Yes.
need like some, support. But we don't want to feel judged, or we don't feel, and that is just not your character at all.
Oh, thank
Mm-mm.
you. When I'm looking at your chart as you're talking, and the highly sensitive person, that empathetic part with you have the double Taurus, but you also on the other side have the double Scorpio with Jupiter right there at your
I got
spiritual
double
part.
Scorpio. Oh,
Yes.
have mercy.
Well, you have Scorpio on your 12th house cusp as well as your rising. And so anytime we see that intersected
Mm,
12th house, and you also have like Jupiter right at your 12th house cusp, which just like really expands, like you're a visionary spiritual person. Like, of course, like leaning back into your spirituality, when you do that, you go into this deep place, this abundant place of
yeah,
flow. But with that double Scorpio there, you're here with some unfinished business. And from a past life, if you believe in past lives, and you're like, you
I
didn't have to
do.
tell
I
me that,
do.
right? Like, I
I
hear
do.
you. You're like, I'm cleaning up all that stuff right now.
Right, right. We're getting it together. We're, I love that like this iteration, this lifetime for me is I'm assuming I don't remember I have had a couple past life readings. So
Yeah.
I've heard some things, I know some things, but I like that this life is really about, you know, just really finding out, being open, like I am open in this life to just what all the things that I didn't know probably before, and just learning more things about what who my spirit is. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
love that.
Like when I look at your chart, to me, like your this lifetime is really about creating like emotional security, creating that like deep intergenerational healing, and creating wholeness.
That
Like,
part.
yeah. And that, I mean, you could say that that would be for everybody, but like when I look at your chart with your North Node in Cancer in the eighth house, like, wow. I mean, this is a very, to say that you're emotional is like not even. To say that you're highly empathetic is like, there are no words to describe how the capacity of your ability to feel into not just this place, the here and now, but like all times, all places.
That it's so odd. It's just so odd. Just the more and more that I, get this information, the more and more certain things are like repeated back to me. So it's just so interesting. Like you can almost never know enough about, like you can't get rid of me, Leslie. I'm coming to you for like every quarter. Like I need to know something. Tell me something. It's just so interesting how there's always more and more to learn, right?
Onion peeling back the layers. And
Yes.
I'm so glad, because I am stuck on you too. Like, I absolutely adore your work, and I'm like just so excited. Before we get into what you're up to next and how to work with you, I would love if we could go on this little segment that I'm trying out called my star segment, because you are a
Yes.
luminary. And so
Oh, yay.
I want to ask you 4 questions, that quick questions about your spirituality, your thankfulness, your activism, and your radiance, your star powers.
Okay.
So, how do you use spirituality in your business? Like, I know you talked about it in your creative process, but how do you use spirituality in your business?
I think something that I've learned, especially over the pandemic, is that, I am an intuitive. I can't really put more name to it outside of that. I have no idea. But what I've learned is that I very clearly, get messages and get like downloads about things that I'm supposed to do. Sometimes it's literally you laughed when I called it like this heavy feeling, and you're like, that's so funny. You call it a heavy feeling. But what I mean is I can literally, my body literally feels weighed down if I could continuously will get like a thought that keeps coming back, coming back, coming back. And this
Mhm.
is around business, whether it be who I'm supposed to work with. It might be something, even sometimes for a client, right?
Ooh.
Um, and I'll just keep getting it, keep getting it. And I've learned, oh, just say the thing, just get it out of your body, and the feeling lifts, right? And so I've learned that in working with clients, like just whatever comes up, give them that, even if they can't use it right now in what we're building. And every when I do that, like it's interesting, the reactions that people have, like, oh my god, I was just thinking of doing that, you know what I'm saying? Or, oh, like all those
Yes.
things. And my favorite compliment is when people say, I feel seen, right? I hear that a lot, and I attribute that to just me being an empath. And so I've literally learned now to just not turn away from that when I'm working with people, and to just give whatever comes up.
That's so beautiful to hear how you're learning to trust your intuition and really
Yes.
bringing that into your work, and instead of like putting it on the sideline, giving it like a front and center space. Second question is about thanks, right? So, and gratitude.
Yeah.
And so, what are some business lessons or kind of difficulties that you overcame that now you're super grateful for experiencing in your business?
I think what you touched on earlier, which is now literally the cusp of what my work is, but just showing up as myself. It sounds like a much larger thing if it's like, oh, putting myself out there. So like,
Mhm.
let's not even say that, right? Just showing up as myself and who I am. Because the reaction that I saw when I started doing that was unlike anything that had happened in my business before, and yeah, I've pivoted and things like that. But also what I mean is, in my messaging, in my copy, the way I show up and talk on camera, like in my group or anything like that, it's very much, this is really me. So
Yes.
if I laugh a lot, I giggle a lot, I have a squeaky voice, it's fine, right?
I love it. It's so lovely.
But even like in my writing, like I write how I talk, and this is actually
Mhm.
something that you should do, like in copywriting. But how I talk is also very much, I don't know, Atlanta, like, but the people who work with me, and the people like, this is another thing I'm always getting messages about. People are just like, I'm showing up as I am, and people just love that. Even just showing up as you are will really bring more changes to your business, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it was a hard concept to think about when I wasn't doing well in business, when I wasn't feeling seen. But that's the work, right? Of
Mm.
carving your own lane. And that starts with literally, who are you and how do you show up? Everybody's not a writer and all those things. I just happen to be. So that's where I chose to really put myself, to where to really put myself. And so yeah, I'm just thankful. I'll be honest, like if I didn't have like that rock bottom period, I don't know that I would have gotten here. And
Yeah.
then I don't know, if I hadn't gotten here, I don't know if I would have been able to help people with that exact thing. You know what I mean? But I will say I'm thankful what came out of that, you know?
Yes. We have a very similar rock bottom story that we don't have time to get into today, but
Yeah.
basically, we learned how to be visible because we were denying our visibility. So there's a lot
Ooh,
of
that's good,
gratitude there.
Leslie. That's
Okay, next
good.
question is about activism,
Okay.
right? About your value and your activism. So what change are you here to make in the world? Like what do you wish people that you could serve knew and would change about them to make the world a better place?
I just think that denying yourself in any facet of your life, so including your business, but also your home life and whatever that looks like for you, um is just kind of another, it's just like a breeding ground for issues and problems and negativities. And if you're an empath like me, like attracting people who are just like, narcissists and vultures and all these things, which they're going to come up anyway. But the denying yourself part, we have control over. And the thing about that too, though, is as we continue to grow and we're always evolving. So who we are is always going to be shifting and changing. So it's almost like you have to keep recommitting. There's a weight that lifts when you do that, even though it's scary and it's being transparent. It's scary. Telling your story is scary. And again, that may not even be what that looks like for you in the non-denial of yourself. That's just what it looks like for me. But that is like one thing that we have control over, and I just think your life can change just based off of that. Like, I'm living proof. Like you said, there's so much more, right? But like, my personal life is a beast. There's a lot of chaos over here, okay?
Oh, you're holding it all together. Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have a very nice way of saying, you say you're carrying a lot. and so it's true. But so what that means for me though then is like, over here on my business, in my little corner of the world, I don't have to take on anything over here. Right. Because that would just be more added to my plate. I got to keep showing up wearing this mask and doing these things in addition to all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Nobody could. That's just too much. That's too much.
It's already too much. But that's a piece that we have control over.
Yeah. So, gosh, I can just imagine the world, as it were, if everybody chose to just be themselves, not try to copy and compare. Okay. Last one, something inspirational. So this is for radiate. So why do you love to shine brightly?
You know what it is? Listen, the pandemic has done a lot, okay, to our systems. No, I'm 39, right? Yeah. So I'll be 40 next year. I just turned 39. And the older I've gotten, the more that I realize I actually like myself. I didn't know I liked myself before, you know what I mean? But it's because I consider myself to be just kind of like a really kind of different kind of person. And now I'm at the stage where I think that's cool. So I think that's cool. I don't care if you don't think it's cool. Yeah. I like, and so if that means, if I can just have a business to support myself and support my family, just being myself and whatever shine that I have. And I do fully believe, though, that we all have people that are attached to us. So they can't do their work until we do our work. Right.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
Yeah, I heard that a few years ago and I was just like, there it is right there. Right. But because of that, I'm not afraid. Whoever I am, and whoever I show up as is actually what needs to happen right now in this moment. And it's someone needs to see it and someone needs to hear it. And this doesn't have to be a business thing, may or may not be a client, but somebody needs to hear it or see it in order for them to take their next step, whatever that looks like for them. And because all that entails from me is just being myself, and I'd be honest, because I've been able to actually see that validation happen of that, now, I understand it and I'm cool with it. So if that's all it takes from me, then I'm happy to do it.
So that's like a service to others. It's like you're just by you shining brightly is in service to others to like spark their shine.
But also, just as a human, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's awesome that that's a byproduct of it, right? Yeah. It's awesome but it's also a service to myself is what I'm learning, right? And my self-care. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, that is just so much wisdom because you really can't serve other people until you serve yourself first. But it's still like this spark that just ripples out. That's like interconnected.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm literally just now learning.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. So can you spill the beans on what you're offering right now? I know you have this big offer coming up. Tell us all about it, how people can work with you and who you want to work with.
Yeah. So I'm launching a program this month. It's called Dope and Different. And it's all about how to brand your differences, right? And so how can we figure out what your differences are, build your brand platform, and use that to brand your voice, to bridge your gap, and to build your own lane. And so be super helpful for anyone who's like really trying to be seen and heard, especially in these times, in what we consider to be oversaturated industries. We all have our own place. So if you've been working and you feel like you haven't been showing up as yourself, or you feel like you're a genius, you're an expert, right? You're a thought leader. We all are. And so, but if you feel like you aren't being seen and heard yet, then yeah, I would invite you to check out. I have a free training. It exists at brandyourdifferences.com. And what the training does is it really takes you through like what my framework is, what it's like to work with me, and how we get, things done, based around you. And yeah, and so in order to get the training, it's a private training, so you have to apply, but it's a really short little application form, just to let me know who you are, and kind of what you want to get out of this. And then once you apply, you get access to the training, and then you can just see what you think from there.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know I'm heading over to brandyourdifferences.com. I need that training. I know. I just love the idea of just like really toning in on your own voice and really honing in on that lane, like carving out your own lane and your own rules. And
Yes.
I know that you will guide everyone doing that, to do that so perfectly well for them.
It's
Oh,
it's 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 possible. That's just what I just want people to know, it's possible.
it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Shaunda, for sharing your brilliance with us. Is there anything else that you want to add besides so also I'll have all of her links on the show notes at
Oh yeah.
thesavvyluminary.com, and you can find her at Instagram and Facebook at SHH Creative LLC. And then of course grab your free training at
Mhm.
brandyourdifferences.com. Anything else that you'd like to leave us
Yes.
with, Shaunda?
No, I'm just thank you for inviting me on, Leslie, and just that your work is the same as mine, right? Like we are both out here talking about how to find whatever's unique about you, how to lean into that. And so I love your work, and I think it's absolutely a part of this whole framework of getting people to lean into themselves and to find and do the work they were meant to do, and to find those clients that they were meant to do it for. So
Yes.
yay.
And I feel the same way about you. Thank you so much, Shaunda.
Thank you.
The greatest thing that you could do to me to pass things forward is to head over to Apple iTunes and leave a rating and review for this podcast. Let others know what you think, and each rating and review helps this podcast be more visible to listeners like you.